BMW's M6 offers a real alternative to more exotically badged supercars, with searing speed, sleek styling and an engine that has few peers. BMW may one day build something to rival an out-and-out driver-focused £70,000 sports car like Porsche's 911, but until it does, their M6 will suit many well-heeled buyers very nicely, thank you very much. If you must have the ultimate BMW, then this is probably it. Now, it's tempting to think of this model as nothing more than a coupe version of the M5 Saloon. After all, it's got exactly the same 500 horsepower V10 engine, much of the same M Sport technology, and as a consequence, pretty much the same performance figures. Now, BMW say different, pointing out that this car has a series of small but significant changes that give it an extra dose of driver focus. There's 50 kilograms less weight, a fractionally shorter wheelbase, these wider and more aggressive tyres, and a centre of gravity that's lowered by 6 centimetres, mainly thanks to this gorgeous carbon fibre roof. Let's find out. So, M5 Coupe, or is this M6 really a supercar in its own right? Well, in truth, it is a bit more driver focused than the M5, especially if you tick the box for the competition pack option that I've got fitted to this car, that gives you Pirelli P0 Corsa tyres on wider rims and lowered suspension front and rear with the ABS stability control and end differential settings tweaked to suit. Now, the availability of this option, like the existence of the M6 itself, is really there to push this car closer to, say, Porsche's 911 and further away from natural 6 Series rivals like Jaguar's XK or Mercedes SL. Now, in truth, it's actually somewhere sitting between those two extremes. It's not a car that you'd really choose for regular track days, but it's more driver focused than something like, say, a Jaguar XKR. For regular trips down to your own private test track in the south of France, it would be just about perfect. No car I can think of better combines grand touring comfort with out-and-out performance aggression, qualities summed up by the standard 7-speed SMG sequential manual gearbox. Now, performance purists would probably prefer the conventional stick shift that you get in, say, an M3. That isn't offered. But the Munich engineers discovered pretty early on that this mighty V10 really needs 7 ratios to keep it constantly on the boil. It only really delivers between 5 and 7,000 RPM after all. You can use the SMG like a conventional automatic, but it can feel a bit jerky if you do. Or you can play with the shift modes via this button here so that they vary between silky smooth or racetrack brutal. Use the gloriously pointless launch control system, get your gear shifts right and rev the engine to its stratospheric maximum of 7,750 RPM and 62 miles an hour flashes by from rest in supercar style. That's 4.6 seconds. Now, that's providing you press the M-Drive button on the steering wheel here that ups power from 400 to 500 brake horsepower. Gives you a bit more leeway with the DSC stability control and also sharpens up the gear changes. In M-Drive mode, mid-range performance is particularly devastating. The 50 to 70 mile an hour overtaking increment dispatched in just 1.7 seconds. Now, any Ferrari or Lamborghini you care to name would struggle to keep up with that, but it would sound better doing it, right? Wrong. This V10 is one of the great engines of its time, lacking a highly strung Italian V8 or V12's primal scream, but bringing with it a Vulcan bomber-style rumble that makes you feel like you're at the wheel of one of those fearsome Auto Union Grand Prix cars of the 1950s. Now, as with the M3 and M5 models, this M6 offers an M-Drive management system that enables you to set the car up for your own particular driving preferences or to suit the type of driving that you're going to be doing, much as a race team would set up a race car. So that means that you can pre-select particular settings for, say, the power button, the SMG gearbox, the DSC stability control, and the EDC electronic damping control, which via this button here enables you to select normal, comfort and sport settings for the suspension. And in the twisty stuff, well, it's not quite a 911, but it gets closer to that car than anything that has over 300 kilograms more to carry around has any right to, thanks to brilliant body control and prodigious levels of grip from the fat tyres. The steering's not quite as responsive as you get in a Porsche, but it's the next best thing. The same goes for the meaty brakes, which can stop you dead from 70 miles an hour in under 37 meters and in just 3 seconds. What Porsche can't match, though, is the quality of this car's wonderful heads-up display that projects speed and revs to the bottom of the windscreen and keeps your attention firmly on the road ahead. Whereas you have to look twice at an M5 to see if it's the real thing and not just an M Sport trimmed 5 Series, there's none of that with this M6. The overall effect is much more muscular than with other 6 Series models, but it's not outrageous. A deeper front valance incorporates air intakes for both the engine and the brakes, and there are these swooping side sill finishers to complete the overall effect. At the back, the rear valance incorporates a diffuser, while there's also that lovely carbon fibre roof with its natural weave finish. Other small but significant touches have been introduced to ensure that people realise this is no ordinary 6 Series. Outside the Telltale 4 exhaust pipes, inside the M Sport red needles on the instrument dials. As you'd expect for the money, it's all carefully built with leather trim for the dashboard as well as for the sports seats, with lovely Alcantara headlining trim to finish things off. More good news comes with the fact that these rear seats are actually usable. Although they may not suit bigger boned or taller adults on longer journeys, they're fine on shorter ones though, and they're certainly much more practical than those in a 911. The boot capacity is practical too. You've got 450 litres and this useful little storage area just inside. That capacity drops substantially if you go for the convertible model though, and it's a pity that there's no ski hatch to enable you to push longer items between the back seats. List prices suggest that you'll be paying somewhere in the £85,000 to £90,000 bracket for your BMW M6, depending on your choice of body style, with a premium of around £5,000 if you go for the fabric-topped convertible version over this coupe variant. Now, if you want to make yourself feel better about that, then think of the £15,000 saving that gives you over the comparable but less rewarding Mercedes SL63 AMG. That car has 525 brake horsepower. In fact, this BMW's closest rival comes from Jaguar, the XKR with 510 brake horsepower. It's about 10 grand cheaper, but it's less focused and ultimately less rewarding too. Another option you might want to consider is Maserati's Gran Turismo S, which sounds brilliant, just as good as this BMW in its own way, but offers you 75 brake horsepower less. Your position on this car's asking price will probably depend on how you view it. From one perspective, you're looking at paying around £22,000 more over the cost of an M5 for getting 2 fewer doors and exactly the same engine. I mean, that's a premium that would buy you a new Golf GTI. But on the other hand, this M6 is quite good enough to stand comparison with cars like Porsche's 911 or Mercedes SL, against which it looks pretty good value. Now, of course, as you'd expect, for the money you get an exhaustive kit list, which I won't bore you with, except to commend the standard AHPS, Advanced Head Protection System, that guards you against side intrusions and also looks after you with the splintering glass that you tend to get in those kinds of accidents. You won't be a fully paid up member of Greenpeace if you're looking at buying this car. CO2 figures vary between 342 and 352 grams per kilometre, depending on your choice of body style. Official combined fuel consumption figures vary between 19 and 20 miles to the gallon, but in reality, if you drive this car as it was intended to be driven, you'll be lucky if you average half of that. Now, unfortunately, given the feeble 70-litre fuel tank, that means a real-world driving range of no more than about 160 miles if you drive the car enthusiastically. Insurance, of course, is a top-of-the-shop Group 20, and residual values, well, they're not too bad, but they won't rival those of Porsche or Maserati. Many people's ideal supercar would be one that you could tail out slide on a track day, then cruise across Europe in afterwards. And for them, this M6 will be just about perfect. Not everyone will like the SMG gearbox, and it consumes fuel at a frightening rate. But hey, we all have to pay for our pleasures. So how will history remember this model? Well, it's desirable enough to make many far more expensive supercars seem silly and pointless, with a glorious engine and a very special feel, strong enough to make it a genuine Porsche or Maserati alternative. It's that good.